At the outset, good morning and namaskara to everybody. Uh, all of you may have wondered what this Shabda Tattva is all about. Shabda Tattva, the word Shabda refers to the primordial sound, the Pranava mantra Om, out of which music, the Samaveda, is supposed to have originated. And Tattva means the way to the sound. In other words, it means the way to the primordial sound or the way to salvation through music. And I have been a music lover and been attending concerts for a very long time, following music through the audio mode too, ever since my childhood. And for some time I've been feeling that I must do Sangeeta Seva. And initially I started off by organizing concerts or helping organize concerts through the sabhas in Bangalore. Of course, later on I thought that I must do something more for music for those who want to learn. And for this, I mean, the idea which came to me was it is through Lec-dems, workshops, thematic programs, and the like, where, of course, I know that the number of people who will be, of course, a bit less than what would be in the concert platform. The concerts are mainly for people who are music lovers, Rasikas, as well as people who want to know more about music, but then they may not get much of an opportunity there because there is an entertainment value too. So keeping this in mind, I have been working on this for the last few months, and this initiative has come through Shabda Tattva. And one of the persons who came to my mind in this way was Srimati Vidya Subramanian, for whom I had done a program at Bangalore International Center, Teri Dumlur, a few years back. And then, of course, time went by and I didn't continue it in that direction. And now I thought that she would be the best person for a Lec-dem, since she's been involved in the music as a practice as well as being a teacher, and now with her a new way of doing it by the audio visual as well as the Skype classes all across the globe, as well as she has a lot of teachers across the who are associated with her and who are in turn spreading the music. So she, all of you may be knowing that she was one of the winners of the Homebrewer Award at Chennai. So I don't think I need to introduce Srimati Vidya Subramanian, since most of you here are her students or who know her in some way or other. Basically, she's a chartered accountant by training, but later on moved to the US and returned to India, and now she's concentrating fully in the field of music. So without much ado, we will start the Lec-dem. I hand over the mic to Srimati Vidya.
Good morning, everybody. At the outset, I would like to thank Mr. Somaskanda as well as the organizers here at Shaale for making this opportunity come true. And I feel really honored to be part of their first event, Shabda Tattva's first event. It is really a great honor and pleasure for me to be a part of this event today. And jumping straight to the topic, Mr. Somaskanda and I brainstormed a variety of topics, and we wanted to choose a couple of topics that will interest a wide variety of music lovers. So before I get started, I wanted to say that some of the things that I may be discussing may be a bit rudimentary for people who have had a lot of training or a lot of listening exposure to Carnatic music, but I have deliberately tried to keep it interesting for people of all levels. So please pardon me if you find some of the things shared to be a bit basic. Similarly, for those who are totally new to Carnatic music, there could be some elements which are a little advanced. And once again, the idea is I didn't want to make it too simple, because if somebody is already fairly advanced as a student, it would become a bit boring. So that is one of the caveats of the presentation today. And thank you all for coming, and also thanks to those who are viewing it online. The presentation is divided into two subtopics. The first one is bridging the gap between theory and practice. And the second one is going to be about raga identification. So we'll first jump into the theory and practice topic. I would like to first start off with this picture. This is a picture of my beloved Guru, Padma Bhushan Lalgudi Sri Jayaraman. Of course, everything I know today, I owe to him. And he's been my guiding light and inspiration from the age of 12. The reason why I put his picture up here is not just to mention that, but also when I prepared for this presentation, there were just innumerable ideas that he had shared as part of his teaching to me, which I have actually incorporated into the presentation itself. I was very young when I started training under him. And unfortunately, for many years, I didn't take up music as a full-time vocation. As Mr. Soma Skanda said, I did my CA and then I did my MBA in the US. I was always a very keen student of music and a keen performer. But it was not until my mid to late 20s that I actually decided that this would be my calling. So I feel in hindsight that I could have actually learnt much more from my guru had I taken this decision a little earlier in my life. But no regrets. But I wanted to mention that a lot of the ideas that I am sharing today are not my own ideas, but ideas that my guru has shared with me during his classes. And I would also like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Vidya Subramanian, who's been guiding me over the last few years, as well as my very first guru, Srimati Rukmini Rajagopalan, who also exposed to me to a very wide variety of compositions, some of which are no longer heard in the concert platform today. So with that dedication, I will move on to the actual presentation. Firstly, when we talk about the gap between theory and practice, let us look at the students today. And again, this is just a generalization. There are always some students who are very serious into music, who are looking to become a full-time performer. And there are others who are just dabbling with all kinds of music just for fun. But on an average, as someone who's running an online academy with a large body of students, these are some of the common attributes that I have observed. One is that compared to the previous generation of students, today's students are very focused and goal-oriented. If we tell them, okay, you have this performance coming up or you have this music exam coming up, they are very willing to work towards such goals. While that is very good on the whole, sometimes that can be a little of a bad thing too, because then if we tell them, okay, if you do akara sadhana every day for 15 minutes, over the next 10 years, your voice will develop. And that's something that doesn't seem to motivate today's students because there is no quick result. And that is kind of the point I've highlighted too. They're very smart, they're very intelligent, but let's say I ask them to just sing a song they learned last year. Sometimes they're not even sure if they know the song. It doesn't even ring a bell. On the other hand, if I teach them something new and tell them, okay, you have this competition. If you win, you will get this prize. They learn it in no time. So that's kind of, I don't want to judge one way or the other, but that is the reality of many a student today. They're very curious, but time is a big constraint because most of them have a lot of academic or work-related pressures. So the time per day that they are able to set aside for music has drastically shrunk. So with a lot of teachers being here today, one thing that I think we all acknowledge is that we have had to change our teaching, because maybe 30, 40 years ago when you went to a guru, very often what they may say is, it takes 15 to 20 years or your whole lifetime to learn this art form. You have to come here, stay the whole day, and when the guru has the mood to teach, you learn. Or when it comes to manodharma or the improvisational aspects, many times the guru would not consciously teach anything. It's like the guru would sing, the student listens and tries to imbibe things over time. The problem now is the lack of time. So if we continue the same methods, the students are either going to drop out or not get anywhere. So that's one thing that as a guru that we need to sort of reorient ourselves. Now, I've also tried to make the presentation a little fun. So some of the things I say may sound a bit cheesy. Please excuse me if it sounds so, but I didn't want it to become like a very monotonous sounding lecture. Sometimes when we hear people sing, right, we hear some mistakes or something that is missing from the presentation. And I've just tried to highlight some of these aspects. And very often, the root cause is again the gap between their theoretical understanding and what they are able to present. And by bridging the gap, we can make them much better presenters or performers. I'm going to actually sing and show you some of these examples. So the first example is the notation singer. They may sound something like this. Mooladhara Murti Gajamukane Sharanam Unad Ubaya Sharanam Mooladhara Murti Gajamukane. So what is wrong? The person is singing a song in Hamsadhvani. The Swarasthanas are in place, but it doesn't sound like Hamsadhvani. Okay? And this is even more common among beginner level instrumental students, where sometimes they just play and it sounds like a bunch of swaras without the sahitya being heard. Of course, with instrument, I understand that there are more steps involved in their learning. So I'm going to talk more about the vocal students because that is really the realm of my expertise as well. So for the notation singer, the gap is that they have been taught to sing looking at the notation. So they are faithful to the swaras, and yet they don't have an understanding of the raga lakshana, or where the notes need to be embellished, where you need to give glides, where there needs to be a pause and things like that. The second thing is actually very common to what I call as the Ganamrita Bodhini gospel singer. The idea is those students are given a book, which is often this very nice book actually called the Ganamrita Bodhini. It could be another equivalent book that is popular depending on the local region of the student. And they are taught from the first page to the last page. So sometimes I have students who approach me to learn. And when I ask them about their current level, they'll say, I am now in Geetam 4 or Swarajati 4. And very often they don't know what raga, what tala, who the composer is, because in that book it is Geetam 4. And I used to wonder, it's almost becoming like Beethoven's 8th symphony or something like that. And again, the problem lies in that the student and the teacher have not moved beyond that book. And while that level of standardization makes things a bit easier initially, over time it makes the gap between the students' understanding and the actual musical forms very wide. So that's the second type. Third type, again, these are lovely women who come to your house during Navaratri, and they actually know many songs and they sing quite well, but they don't have much of a swarangyana. So sometimes you will find an apaswaram here or there, which are not part of the raga's grammar, but overall they sing well. But if you ask them what swaras they have sung, they really don't have any idea. And they are, very interested in music. They love going to kacheris. They know maybe 100 kritis. But I call them the Kolu queens. They sing really well on the whole. But someone who is very technically adept will find some flaws here and there, which can be corrected if the swarangyana in the student is developed. The fourth one is actually a little thing that happened to me personally, where I taught a young student a kriti, Mamavasada Janani, and she sang it very well. She's probably around 10 years old, sang it well. And I asked her at the end of the rendition, what is the raga? And she thought for a while and she said, Auntie, I think it's Kannada or Kannada, I'm not sure. So the idea is she knows the song, she sang it quite well, but the name of the raga has not really registered in her mind. So there are people like this too, who sing well, but who are not able to retain the ragas, arohana, avarohana, or name of the raga. I sometimes even have children asking before they sing a song, is it Adi or Rupakatala? Once you tell them, they are able to do it. But it's just not part of their practice routine, or it's not something that they focus on. So, as I said, it is again back to the the primary attributes of the students today that, as teachers, we need to keep reminding them. Like I sometimes almost make it a rule for all my students that they have to say aloud before singing a song the name of the raga, tala, composer, sing the arohanam, avarohanam twice. And when you make it as a rule, over time, I find that their ability to remember improves. Now, these are all symbols associated with Halloween. The idea is, for a lot of students, Carnatic music, especially the theory part, is very scary. In fact, for a lot of people, general Carnatic music itself is scary because they go to these concerts, especially people who are newbies. They find it melodious, they go there. There are people nodding their heads here and there and really enjoying, and these people are clueless as to what's happening. And, they actually start feeling a bit foolish that they don't really know what is happening. And then they stop going. So, one of the things that I think the more knowledgeable Rasikas or performers or teachers need to consciously start doing is to take away this whole fear factor from Carnatic music. And that's something I have personally been wanting to do. And by God's grace, I think through my academy, I've been able to reach out to a lot of first generation students. And one of the most important things that we try to bear in mind is to make sure that it is not intimidating for them. Because I have students who ask me, what is Shruti, what is Tala? And I think it is absolutely fine. When we go to a lawyer or a doctor, we may ask questions that are very basic to those professionals. It is the same thing here. People who are new to Carnatic music may not know some of the basics that we think are very obvious. So one thing this is something for the more knowledgeable people. Why should we make theory or even our music a bit scary for people who are not already a part of it? So one thing that I think we can start doing is, for the basic to the intermediate level students, we can try to minimize the jargon as far as possible, or every time we use a technical term, we can keep repeating the meaning, because sometimes we do explain what a gamakam is, or what yati is, or what kala pramanam is. We explain once and we assume that they remember when we refer to it the next time. It may not be so for a majority of beginner level students. So it is absolutely fine to keep repeating these terms over time, so that as and when they encounter those instances in future, they are able to make the connect. And one other thing I would also say is, make the students have a small glossary of the oft repeated words in Carnatic music. And we have so many websites. See, the internet has become a great enabler, as we all know. One very easy thing to do, for whether you're a Rasika or a teacher or a student, just go online, download or make a list of maybe the 50 most often used Carnatic terms. Keep it with you in a booklet. Every time somebody says gamakam or spuritam or whatever it could be, just look up the glossary and see if you can find it. If not, just add the new word to the glossary. That's one way, again, like I said, looking from the lens of today's student, we can make these terms more understandable or approachable. Because back in the past, people didn't need those glossaries because they were ready to devote maybe 50 years or 20 years to get familiar with the terms. And also maybe because they didn't have so many activities, their minds were more deeply attuned to the one or two activities that they chose to dedicate their lives to. So the terms became very intimately familiar in a short span of time. Whereas we are spreading ourselves wide these days. So it's a good idea to have documentation. Every time you hear a word again and again, look up the meaning so that it becomes more familiar.